Hey, it's Greg here at maritimegardening.com, and I thought it was time again for another garden tour brought to you by my sponsor, Vessi Seeds. Almost all the seeds in my garden this season, 2019, were provided by Vessi Seeds, and if you want to support the channel, go to their website. You can buy online if you're in Canada or the US, and there's details in the description box of this video on the coupon code and all that sort of stuff for 2019. So yes, it's the first week of November. I try to do a garden tour around the first week of each month, give or take. And we're still pulling lots of things out of the garden. Of course, lots of things have sort of been taken down and put away. I would imagine the garden looks a lot different from above in terms of the overhead view sort of thing than what you've been seeing in recent videos. Just because all the heat-loving things are dead and the beans are dead and a whole bunch of plants are sort of done, but the cold-loving things are doing great, and this is the best time of year for cold crops, C-O-L-E, not cold, cold crops like kale and broccoli and things like that, and of course there's the root veg. So without any further ado, let's take a walk around and let me show you what's going on in the garden. Alright, so we're here at the entrance of the garden, and these are the hugel culture beds at the entrance of the garden. All the potatoes have been picked, all the pumpkins and squash have been harvested. I even created a new bed. So this bed here had been only like a half bed, and the front part was just a place I stored, different gardening materials, buckets and stuff. Basically it looked like a trash heap. So I decided to box up the front a little bit, and I sort of removed all the really good soil, and then I just buried a bunch of rotten logs and stuff and put the soil back, and then I put about 2 bags of yard waste, mainly leaves, on top, and that should be a good garden next year. Maybe I'll plant potatoes there, because I had squash growing in the back portion this year, so maybe I'll do potatoes next year. That's just going to be continue to work in compost until next year. Into the garden, I got all my kale growing here. Kale's going great. This is the kale that I started in a cold frame last year. I sowed it outdoors in a cold frame, and then I moved it around middle of May, I think. The kale that's closer to the front, I mulched that very heavily with grass clippings in like July, August, I think. Maybe even later than that. And just look how green and lush it looks. And by contrast, as we go down, I just mulched these last week. And look how much smaller and kind of wimpy looking these ones are, right? So because they just been mulched recently, and of course things have slowed down a lot in the garden. So yeah, I mean, I think I've been mentioning this very recently, but grass clippings and kale seem to work great. I think I mentioned at some point in time that I had kale just coming up wild in my garden, and this is the kale just in my walkway. I must have just dropped some seeds here. That's like a red Russian kale. Right? And it's not as big and lush as the stuff in the prime growing spots. Of course, it doesn't get good sun here, and it's growing in a sand pathway. So it's not bad considering it's in shade and growing in sand. I mean, there's decent, I imagine the soil underneath there is halfway decent. It's the original existing soil, basically. Anyway, that's my kale. Those were they're probably about a foot high, right? So my bigger kale are like 2 feet high or more, right? I don't think I've shown much of this garden. This is kale that I sowed last November. I've been harvesting it and stuff like that. And this time of year I kind of harvest things more aggressively because I know it's going to start to freeze soon. But anyway, this was sown last November, and I need to start doing some of that now. But look at this one. What a beauty, right? And these kale were fairly heavily beset by pests at some point in the summer, and then I just thinned them out really aggressively and just let the sort of best looking ones stick around. And yeah, this one here is the best of them. Hardly any sign of pest damage at all on this one, eh? Like, look at this one by contrast. It's just been eaten alive. So interesting anyway. I got the Swiss chard still going strong. It's kind of, I find that the Swiss chard doesn't survive the cold nights as well as the kale. So the kale seems to not mind being frozen and thawed over and over again. The Swiss chard, at some point in the late fall, as you're getting into November, December, it just kind of liquefies That's the best way I can put it. So I'm trying to harvest this kind of aggressively and eat it all up before that happens. So yeah, but still, you know, I planted this spinach or Swiss chard, sorry. I don't know, end of March, early April, under plastic, and it's just been growing all spring, all summer, all fall, right? Same plant. Great harvest. This over here is the bed where I had the cucumbers. That's been all sort of put away and put down and mulched. This is where I had the, this is where I had my zucchini, and this is where I had my cucumbers, and that's just all been mulched and put away, and it's just regenerating for next year by virtue of the mulch breaking down. That's the fertilizer, basically. That's the fertilizer and the soil and the amendment. This was where I had the eggplant. The eggplant are all dead, of course. I haven't really put this bed down yet because I'm still harvesting these artwork broccolini. Right, they're still producing these little florets, right? And they still taste like broccoli. So I got to plant more of these next year. I got pretty good results from this thing. So yeah, I think about a 4x4 or 4x6 bed is about the right amount to get a good bowl every week. This area is maybe just 2x4, 2 feet by 4 feet, and it's not enough, right? It's just, I mean, it's enough to have a little broccoli dish, but we love broccoli in my house, so yeah, more of it. But I think an entire bed of it would probably be too much. Like 4x8 might be too much. Depends on how much you like broccoli and how often you want to eat it. A 4x4 or 4x6 configuration of that would give you a good sized like salad bowl of broccoli once a week. This is the parsnips. Still haven't harvested them. Probably going to harvest them in a couple weeks. There's no sign of things freezing up yet, so I'm just going to let them continue because they just get better and better with the cold nights. Still got some beets to come out of the ground here. A little bit of lettuce that was sown in sort of middle to late August. And the, what are these called? The salsify have not been harvested yet. I'm really excited to give them a try soon. This is the bed where I had the peas and the beans and all that. And look at this over here. I shouldn't have kicked this down, but this is, there is a groundhog that has found its way into my garden. I'll be walking on the pathways, and all of a sudden it'll be hollow underneath. And I got to figure out some way to take this guy out. I don't really know what to do. If anyone's got really good experience solving groundhog problems, you let me know. I should have left that mound intact so you could see. Oh, there's one over here. Yeah, so this is a groundhog mound, right? Beautiful soil. I wish I could train them to just deposit soil in a bucket for me. But anyway, they're not good. They will do a hell of a lot of damage in the garden. So I've got to figure out, all I've been doing right now is just, stomping the tunnels out, making his job really hard. But that's probably not going to deter him. So, yeah, he seems to be focused on this corner of the garden. He keeps making little mounds here or there. So, yeah, I'm trying to make him as unwelcome as possible. But I'm just playing patty cakes. I mean, I need to get a little bit more hardcore with this guy. I think I need to get a little medieval, to put it bluntly. What's going on over here? Still got the strawberries. This is the seascape variety of strawberry. They're still producing strawberries, but it's slowed down considerably, and the taste is not. They still taste good. They just don't taste great anymore. That's the best way I could put it. This is where, what did I have growing here? This was beans and potatoes, I believe. It's all mulched and put down for the year. The collards here and the kale and a bit of Swiss chard and stuff is still growing strong here. Same with these collards. I actually planted my garlic here. These greens are still going good. I've planted all my garlic, all 200 some odd cloves of garlic. I mean, this year what I've done with garlic is you'll see I have like a row of beds. There I've got a row of beds. There I've got a row of beds. And I got 2 more rows of beds outside the garden enclosure. And I've elected to put a garlic/onion bed in every one of those rows. So for this row, this is the garlic, right? That's all planted with garlic. For this row of beds, this one is garlic, right? For this row of beds, this bed is garlic. Even though there's still stuff planted here, I actually just jammed garlic in amongst, sort of in a particular configuration. I have a video on it if you want to look for it. I planted garlic here even though things are still growing. And I got 2 more outside the enclosure too. I'll show you those. Let's just go over there right now. Right, so here we are outside the enclosure, and so here's like a row of beds, right? And this one has garlic in it. And then if we look down this this row, this bed at the bottom is a garlic bed. So my thinking with the garlic is that, it's recommended that in terms of rotation, you should, only have something in a garden at no greater frequency than once every 4 years. And the way I like to rotate things is just move them sort of downhill, bed by bed. So garlic here this year, garlic there next year, and so on and so forth. So I figured if I had a garden bed in every one of these rows of beds, and because every row has at least 4 beds, that I'd be in no danger of repeating garlic in a bed at a frequency any greater than once every 4 months. So it's just an easy way to stay on top of it. Garlic and onions, I'm planting them together. Over here we got some carrots. This is just sort of continuation of the perimeter next to the kale bed. Got some carrots still growing here, still pulling those out. I'm going to pull some today, having sort of a roast dinner type deal for supper today. These Vietnamese canned coriander are still going strong, and I've used up all my tomatoes and stuff, but there's still lots of things you can add this stuff to. I'm surprised it's shrugged off the frost. Really surprised, and I'm inclined to maybe even build some sort of plastic dome over this just to see if I can get it to survive the winter. I think it's a zone 11 plant, so I don't have a lot of optimism, but you never know. Nothing ventured, nothing gained, right? Got some collards here and some strawberries. There's a huge strawberry. Look at that one. Still getting strawberries, eh? That's what's it called? Day neutral type of strawberry. The leaves are all changing on the blueberry plants. That's what blueberries look like in the fall. I got the asparagus over here is all starting to turn yellow. I'm going to have to cut that down soon and mulch that bed. Oh, also I built these sort of little step type things along here just to try to, so it's a bit steeper here, and when the water runs down that hill with a really heavy rain, we've had a lot of heavy rains this year, hurricanes and tropical cyclones and stuff, it can sort of create a canyon effect down here. So I thought these would just slow down the velocity of the water and minimize that sort of thing, which it has done. It hasn't completely stopped it from happening, but it has minimized that. So it looks kind of cool, I guess. One of my viewers was asking, I had a big band-aid on one of my fingers in a recent video, and the day I was just cutting these with a folding saw. That's the day I cut my finger. I cut it really bad, actually. Anyway, I'm always cutting myself. So that's that part of the garden. These grapes have actually finally produced grapes. This is the first year I got anything real out of this. It's really not enough to make wine from, nor I don't even have what I need to make wine. I need a friend that makes wine. They can take the grapes and I can get a bottle or two. Maybe that's my long-term plan. Make a friend that makes wine. Because these are wine grapes. They're okay to eat, but they're not delicious sweet grapes. They're more of a savory, sort of very intense flavor. It would probably make a very good wine. Maybe even a half-decent grape juice. I think that's my plan this year, is to just smush them up and make some sort of juice and just drink them, I guess. They're very small and kind of, not that you can't eat them, they're just a bit tedious to eat. I guess it's better than eating chips, I suppose. These wacky raspberries are still producing raspberries into November. And actually, they don't even taste half bad. Not bad at all. But this is definitely not the way I want my strawberry or my raspberries producing, you know, getting, like, they're getting frozen and thawed and just not, you know, because every other night now, not every other night, but I mean, well, let's just say every other night it gets down to really close to freezing or freezing. And I've certainly come out here in the morning and the kale's been frozen stiff, right? So, yeah, those aren't the conditions for delicious sweet strawberries. Or, sorry, delicious sweet raspberries. Those are not the conditions that excellent raspberries are under which they're made. And finally, the part of the garden outside the enclosure. This is completely done, completely shut down. And I've got very little work left to do here. I've mulched most of these beds and weeded them and stuff. And just a couple beds. I think these hugelkultur beds, I haven't really put them down yet for the winter. Not much work left to do there, but maybe a half an hour's worth of work to get those basically put down for the winter, and we'll have to come up, figure out some garden plan for next year and what to do with them. Anywho, that's where we are. First week of November 2019. Had a great garden this year, and easy as pie. So yeah, the no-till approach, you just can't beat it, and I can't say enough about it. And I've been reading a lot of the comments from the viewers, and I'm glad that a lot of you are trying it out and it's working for you, and it's great to hear. And some of you are giving, like, they're calling this my method. I didn't invent this. I mean, I discovered this by reading and watching other people on YouTube and just playing and doing experiments out in my garden here, and adopting it and just working with it and evolving as a gardener, as many of you are doing. So I'm glad it's working for you, and there's lots of resources out there, and I hope you just continue to grow, and I'm glad I could be a part of it. So if you enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe, check out my podcast, maritimegardening.com. Click the bell if you want to be notified when I drop a new video, and until next time, get out there, get at it, have fun in your garden. Thanks for watching.